Hey guys, I just want to let you know that I am now a certified spiritual life coach. If you resonate with the topics and lessons that my guests and I discuss on my podcast, and you feel that you could use some empowerment and direction in your journey of becoming who you truly are, consider booking a free discovery call with me on my website at kindlemccullough.com. And now on to the episode.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you
Good.
doing?
How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Thank you for taking the time. Thanks for joining this live. I am so curious to know more about you. Who is Kendall? And yes, what's your journey so far?
Yeah, my first live. So thank you for
Nice.
opportunity.
Nice. That's so nice to hear. Well, my pleasure. And I hope we can have this nice open discussion and we can get to know each other and also provide the best impact and opportunities for people here also in the live to
Yeah.
maybe question.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So, your question: Who am I? Well, I am a spiritual life coach, and I love playing basketball. I love reading. I love deep conversations like this. Have my own podcast as well. I like writing a lot. Reading. I said that. But yeah, I grew up Christian. And then in college, I kind of became more aware of the wider Christian. There's a lot of different denominations, a lot of different beliefs, a lot of different things. So I became more aware of that and I started kind of questioning, figuring things out. And in grad school, I had a Kundalini awakening, which kind of rocked my world. And I got kind of, stopped sleeping or eating too much. I had a lot of energy, had a lot of synchronicities, but I got too ungrounded. And then I got taken to the hospital and to the psych ward, got put on meds, and kind of came crashing down from that experience. Had a dark night of the
Oh
soul.
my God.
Uh,
I
yeah,
feel you. Oh my God. Okay.
a lot of people have had similar experiences, so it's
Yes.
to uh, you know people and realize that this is a common thing, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know what happened to me. I didn't understand. And so I went to the dark night of the soul. Um, Eventually got off meds. I went to school for counseling. I was still trying to figure out myself, figure out my path. And eventually I realized that coaching is more my thing. And I dropped out, went to coaching school for a year, and then I've launched my business for a couple months now. And so trying to get more into that, which brings me to today. And it's been great to connect with people on Threads. So this is really great. And start going on people's podcasts, having people on my podcast, and collaborating, and just seeing so many other spiritual people who care about growth, about individual growth and collective growth. So yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Wow. Thanks for sharing. Wow. I can relate so much to a lot of what you said. Oh my God. Yeah. I also had a spiritual awakening, I think. And for me, I think I'm in the dark night of soul time. So I totally connect with that. And it's rough. Um, so for me, it happened something like a month ago.
Wow.
And no, well, maybe 2 months now. And at the week that happened, I had so much like, okay, overwhelm and sharing with people and how it felt. And people also called the doctor for me. So I totally relate with your story where it got difficult. Tell me a
Mhm.
bit more like about that. Like how long did it lasted also for me? Because I would like
Yeah.
to know how does it feel?
To talk to people who've had the experience, and it's a little different for everyone. There are different types, you could say, and I realize when people say awakening, they mean so many different things, and that's why I say Kundalini, because mine was energetic. I was shaking.
Yeah.
It was a oneness experience with God. It was so ecstatic, love, joy, peace. And the next day, I was just full of energy. So that lasted about a month. I was like flying high. Um, and then I got taken to the hospital. So I kind of, I think I was losing my sense of self, and I was thinking that my roommate wanted to go back home to his fiance, and I would take his place and be him. And so I was dressing clothes. So you see, I was like getting really out of it.
Mhm.
And I was at that point, I was like barely eating. I was like fasting, I said, and then I was like sleeping like 3 4 hours a night for a couple nights. So yeah, I was just I didn't have it. I didn't have people around me at the time. I went back to grad school. I was at home for a while to tell me how to ground and what I was going through. So it was about a month.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I also take lessons from that in terms of, yeah, we, like, at least for me, I am really getting into my head most times, and grounding is super difficult. I have to remind myself all the time to ground, to ground, to ground. Sometimes, like even now, I'm
Oh yeah.
like, I hold my crystals just for the sake of having something to remind me to ground.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, taking care of my body, listening to my body, connecting to my needs, eating normal times, and trying, because sometimes I'm so like energetic that I want to create, I want to do this, I want to do that, I forget,
Right.
literally forget to eat. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of setting
Yeah.
myself.
The creativity, and we're like, oh, I want to do this, but
Yeah.
I not way in my awakening, but then I wasn't actually able to do anything because I wasn't grounded and I couldn't settle down.
Mhm.
So I think it's so great for you, and this is partly why I'm a coach, is to help people be like, okay, this is what happened. Let's make sense of that. What happened, and then like this is how we can like integrate that and ground down and apply this to everyday life. So I think it's great that you know what's happened to you and you have people around you that can help you deal with this.
Yes, yes. I have a coach myself, and I have, yeah, weekly calls with her to get new strategies to ground. And also super super happy to hear more about you if you want to share about grounding and things like that. I'm super beginner, and would love to hear as well the approach on relationships and how does that all connect, right? How it
Right.
connects with our projections, how it connects with, yeah, we're seeing the world different, all the synchronicities, like how to handle all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say on the topic, just some grounding, just any like work with your hands, like gardening or nature is so important. That's so critical to our health and so natural,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Um, meditation can be, but can also be ungrounding. So
Hmm.
I think somatic meditation is really helpful. Like breathe, focus on your breath, your body, or the sounds around you, different stuff like that. Yeah, just doing, chores around the house, just things that are basic in your daily
Yeah.
life. They're important and they help, maintain a routine. And like writing is helpful for me. Like you said, you have a lot of thoughts, and I totally relate to that. Writing helps me get out things in my head. Some people like dancing, just different ways to get out the energy that's kind of can get stuck sometimes.
Yes, yes, 100% agree. Oh, thanks for sharing. I can relate so much. So, so, so much. Thank you. This is valuable information.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, and my path has been tough, not gonna lie. Right through it and still figuring out how to get out of it sometimes, and how to be managing it, use it for my creativity, and using it for, yeah, just being a human again,
Hmm.
and relating to my relationships as well, because I totally now I'm forced to revise all my relationships
Yeah.
around me, because
Awakening
it's
to
like it opened my eyes, and then I feel quite insecure, right? Like looking at, okay, what is real, what is not real, checking up with every single person in my life, like, is this real, is this not real? Like, I'm going through this right now. So yeah.
yeah. Well, my heart goes out to you. But yeah, glad you have people around you, and awakening is like an acceleration. It's like a fast forward. And yeah, it's definitely hard. To be honest, but it's also like an acceleration towards growth and healing. So, in the long run, I think it's amazing.
Mhm.
Um, keep on doing the good fight.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So you want to get into
Yeah,
relationships,
yes.
talk
Yeah,
about attachment styles?
yes. Yes, I would love to hear what you have to say in attachment styles. Like, I feel like I had anxious avoidant myself and also complex. I don't know, I think it's like mix of anxious and avoidant, right? I think it's how the term, I'm not too familiar. So I would love to hear your perspectives to explain to people like, yeah, what are the definitions and what do they mean actually? How do you see that?
Yeah. So, yeah, as far as I've studied, I think there's anxious, there's avoidant, and then there's chaotic, which is kind of like, I think like you're saying, that mix of both.
Yeah.
And then there's like, and I think that the majority of people are, one of the three unhealthy ones. And it takes work to become healthy. I think so anxious is where you're really attached to people, that you could become a people pleaser,
Hmm.
or really aware of people and what you think they might be thinking, feeling, their body language. You quickly attach to people
Hmm.
and have fantasies about, like, this relationship could be this amazing friendship. It could be this amazing partnership, relationship, romantic um, thing. Your head jumps, way ahead in the future, and like, oh, we could have kids, blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
Um, and then avoidant, is kind of the opposite. It's don't want to attach to people, don't want to commit, don't want to spend time with people so much, don't want to get intimate, don't want to get vulnerable, have your defenses up, um, maybe not as aware of people so much. Um, I'm more anxious attachment, so that's a little bit more familiar to me.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think I am somewhat chaotic, which is kind of the bouncing back and forth. And so it's like, it's kind of funny because I can be anxious attached to someone, but then if someone becomes anxious attached to me, then I become more avoidant, like, and then, getting too close to, even though I want intimacy, I want vulnerability, I want closeness, um, too much of that, if I feel unhealthy, I can push away with, and so, boundaries are also a part of the topic, and they're definitely important as well. So that's
Yes.
meaning, is
Yes.
that resonate with you?
Totally. Every single, I am definitely chaotic. I think my style is, yeah, I have a rejection wound, clearly.
Yeah.
And yes, dealing with that, I already understand. I talk a lot about it with my family. Like, I even talk to my dad and to my mom about my wounds. So we are kind of healing together, you know? And but that created this little gap, I would say, that we need to understand it in order to change the dynamic, right? So for me, being the chaotic type, I'm quite anxious. So I need validation constantly, like asking, like, okay, where are we heading?
Mm,
And in a way, trying to be controlling because I want to feel safe.
yeah.
And still trying to deal with that with my partner. And yeah, most of the times I get my validation, but when I don't, because people are not perfect, right? And then my boyfriend sometimes is in a bad day,
Hmm.
then it gets complicated because I don't get the validation. I also cannot validate him.
Mm,
And it becomes a weird dynamic. And it hurts both of us. And we are
mm,
trying to heal together. Like, not, I also left the part that I want to fix you and this kind of
yeah.
things. I'm trying to go more into, I need to fix myself and you need to fix yourself. And we will see if we're going to stay together. But since we have love, we're trying to hold on to it. But for people that are watching, I know we all go through this kind of things. And sorry.
Hmm.
And then sometimes I also become avoidant. Like, we have a little fight, a little dynamic that is not working.
Hmm.
Suddenly I just run away and I'm like, no, I can deal with this. Like, let's break up. And I constantly bring it up. And then I'm also like, therapy, don't say that. We cannot be threatening people. That's also manipulation. And even to me, like, I having to accept myself and heal with kindness and love. It's a beautiful process, but very, very painful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. What you call rejection wound. I guess I think maybe the same thing is I've called an abandonment wound.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's funny, I've had actually, I think it was a year and a half ago, talking about painful. There was a girl I was, it was complicated.
Okay. We don't need to go into details. Whatever you feel
Yeah.
comfortable to share with people.
But basically, she kind of like was putting space between us, and I kind of had the beginnings of like a panic attack. I don't think I had a full-blown panic attack, but I started kind of hyperventilating,
Yeah.
breathing really heavy, and all this energy was coming up, and then I had to go to my friends and talk it out, and I gradually calmed down. But that it never happened to me, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. But I think a good mindset, which I've learned and begun to cultivate, is um, to be kind of happy whenever triggers come up, because that just means that it's something from the unconscious that is ready to be dealt with, that needs to be dealt with, and
Mm.
it's a part of healing and growth. And so it's not going backwards, but it's going forwards. And once you deal with that, then not that that will never come up again, but it probably won't be as intense, and you will be more healed, and you can relate to others and help more.
Yes. Totally, totally relate with that in my current situation. Not to expose my boyfriend or anything, don't want to do that. But since it's part of me, it's hard to deal with. And it's part of us to stay and decide for what's best for both of us, individually and together, right? Because we know when we heal, everything can change, right? Everything, your perspectives broaden and everything else. It's a painful process that I'm tiptoeing around. So thank you so much. That gives so much clarity. And I really hope that this vulnerability, and like, thank you so much for sharing also your story. Like, I know it's vulnerable and I know it's tough to touch in there, but I think it's so necessary for people to have awareness. And even myself, I'm also learning. And yeah, super valuable. And
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying that, like, having my podcast for a year and a half now,
yeah,
I think it helped. Like, and then just having safe people in my life, which I'm really grateful for.
yeah,
Um, helps you destigmatize, like, you're not crazy, you're not alone. This is a normal human thing, and you're also you're working through it, and that's an amazing thing. Many people avoid, suppress, push away, don't acknowledge. So so yeah, have some self-love there, and for you and for myself. And what was I gonna say? Oh, too. Kind of what you said about fixing people. I called that the hero complex. I definitely realized that in my the first two girlfriends I had that hero complex, which which I say is, um, I have a lot of issues, but I'm going to focus on you and your issues, and I'm going to try to
yeah,
fix you so
yeah.
that, number one, I don't have to focus on my issues. I can feel good about myself, and it'll distract me. And also, if I fix you, then it'll make me feel better, and I'll be safe, and I'll be understood, and I'll be valued.
Yes, exactly. Like I did an anger management course because as a woman, I had so much anger suppressed. And I
Mm-hmm.
totally relate to when you say like the hero and trying to like, in a way, get your safety through the other person and not finding the
Yeah.
safety within yourself. Right? And then there is this, the triangle of drama, like the victim. I talked about
Oh,
this also in the other live, like being the victim, the prosecutor, and the rescuer or savior.
yes.
Not sure. So we play around in these roles, right, all the time. And uh, like we loved some dramas. Like I like to say loved because I want to to put that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do at times. We're human, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, when something hurts us, we should even feel the drama a bit. Like I think it's also healthy to, be a bit dramatic and just say like, oh, you know what, you hurt me. I feel like this. Could you just give me some validation, please? And doing that for each other, I think it's so healing for the relationship. Honestly, it's one of the things that I've been learning and growing the most in my current relationship is to be present for each other. Like be super aware of when I'm trying to fix you. Please also, if you feel uncomfortable, tell me. Tell me that you like I'm doing it, because sometimes we do it
Yeah.
unconsciously.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we keep on the loop over and over
Right.
again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's well known, but communication is key, and
Yeah.
uh, but we can only communicate as much as we're self-aware, and so yeah, being aware of what's going on inside of us, our thoughts and emotions, and then being able to communicate that well and have someone that's so great that you have that healthy relationship with your boyfriend that you can feel safe to be able to, like, hey, you know what, that hurt me, or
Hmm.
hey, you're trying to fix me right now, and then they also have the permission to do the same thing, so it's equal in that way, and it's not just one-sided. And when you have that permission and you can do that, and and not throw the other person off and hurt them so much, and you're just realizing, you know growing up Christian, there's like
Hmm.
uh relationship is like a triangle. It's like you and the other person are helping each other get closer to God,
Yeah.
instead the other person is my total answer and my savior, and will do everything right, and be everything for me, and that's a lot of pressure, and that's
Hmm.
no one be all of that. And so I do think it's helpful to um, you know, co-collaborate and growing closer to God and being that your answer, but you also help each other along the way.
Yeah. Yes, wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very well said. Those words are like they really touch me. And I feel like getting close to God has been the best thing that has happened to me in all this chaos that's happening in my life. Like getting reassurance, finding friends, like trying to understand what's happening around me. But if there is one thing that I can always trust, it's probably my mom and God and my dad, of course. My mom, my dad, and God. And that's so healing, when you have something to hold on to when things get hard. And also, of course, your partner. I think these
Mm,
having this type of support, they they start helping you rebuilding the foundations that were so shaky after like any process. And how is the connection you feel like with relationships and God itself? Because most people don't, and well, not generalizing, of course, but some people
mm,
don't recognize the value of having not even God, but let's say faith, right,
right.
in their lives.
Yeah. So it's been a funny journey, growing up Christian. Obviously, there's an idea of God, and we kind of Christians a lot of times think of God in a very relational way, which can be good and it can be bad. Think of God as kind of like this person. Obviously, we know he's not, but in this way of like I can have a relationship with him. But a lot of times we bring our attachment wounds and we bring our ideas of humans and humans relationships and all the imperfect nature of that onto our idea of God.
Mhm.
And so I also do the same thing. I my childhood was mixed. Like I have a great family in many ways, and in some ways they're also imperfect, just like every other family,
Mhm.
and are things. And so well, number one, I'll say my parents have improved a lot and grown a
Mhm.
lot, just as I have. And so I was the firstborn, and so they didn't really, and back in those days too, there wasn't a lot of education about psychology and human development. So my parents
Mhm.
had high expectations of me as the firstborn and expected me to be like a little man. And so I wasn't really allowed to be a child. I wasn't allowed to like express my anger and my needs really too much. Um, and so I kind of developed this shame and this perfectionism and um, pushing down my emotions and my needs.
Mhm.
And so I also put that onto my relationship with God. I'm like, okay, God is so amazing. God is perfect. Um, he expects me to be amazing and do great and to like follow his ways and his rules. And for me to like have this relationship with him, I need to be like doing the path, follow the ways. And so I would try to do that for a while. Be like, okay, I'm going to pray every day. I'm going to read the Bible every day. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then it would just be way too much. And I would
Mhm.
get overwhelmed. And then I would, have this chaotic attachment style, and then I would push away and be like, okay, forget God for a while. I'm going to do my own thing, and then I
Where
would
to
be
live right now. Yeah.
worth.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Sorry, continue. I didn't
Yeah,
want to stop you.
that, yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, because recently I reconnected to the because my relationship with spirituality, like being anxious, avoidant, chaotic, I always had a lot of sensitivity, right? Or sensibility, or even people would call label. I don't like labels, but
Mm,
ADHD or HPS or it overlaps, but I like to call it sensitivity because then it's more broad.
mm,
And with this sensitivity, I always struggled a lot with too many noises, like environments, energies, people. But I never really believed in myself, like as being a spiritual being. And I
mm,
also grew up in a Catholic environment with my family. And yeah, we would go to church when I was a kid. And I had this exposure. And I believed in God, but I was always like, I don't know. The church has also some rules that sometimes I might not agree. I don't like, again, frameworks. I think frameworks sometimes it's nice to have a structure, but having frameworks like this is the truth,
mm,
it's it prevents us from growing, right? It's like, okay, that's the box, so don't think outside of
mm,
it, And I don't like anything that limits my growth.
mm,
And in saying that, I could never really connect to the religion. I grew up as, yeah, normal person. I used to call like no religion. Maybe I would do some yoga and say that, okay, I like something more like Hinduism or Buddhism. But I also never got into it. So it was just more like trying to meditate and go more into that zone. And then when I had this Kundalini awakening, then really I saw God. It's like I hear God. But it's also like a lot of pressure. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of things,
mm,
right?
mm.
And yeah, coming with this understanding and reconnecting to God now as 32 years old, it's beautiful, but also a high responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, my awakening really was so interesting and how it changed my understanding and relationship to God. Um, so when I had my awakening, I thought I heard God's voice talk to me, and it was also, you know, um, I always knew God loved me, but I there's one thing of knowing something in your head and
Mhm.
then actually body.
Yeah,
So that I wake was a feeling in my body,
yeah,
and I was like, wow, I never realized how much God loves me and loves me just for who I am now, flaws and all, um, and just giving myself so much love for just trying, just doing my best.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Totally,
and
my heart goes to you. Yeah,
yeah,
totally get.
yeah, yeah, and so, um, but and then the month afterwards, I was having all this synchronicity. I was feeling all this energy within the earth, within other people, and feeling like God is in everything. And um, but it was interesting because like I said, I got too high, I crashed and got put on meds, and then I lost that connection. I lost that feeling of energy,
Mhm.
and I was kind of like, I'll be honest, I was kind of angry at God for a while. I was like, why did this happen? Um, also like, what's wrong with me? Like, why did I not have this connection with God anymore? Like, what did I do wrong? Um, Also, is this experience even real?
Mhm.
The doctors, my parents were just telling me it was like bipolar one. I had a manic attack. I was so confused. And, but at the same time, the awakening had kind of broken me of all my beliefs, my understanding of the universe.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of like, Christians would call it deconstruction. I was in this emotional deconstruction without even knowing that that was a thing that people go through. Um, and didn't know what to think of God. I was like, maybe God is like just the energy of the universe, just the laws of nature that we like make into this idea of a person, of a being. but he's not. It's the energy. That's how I felt at the time, and I didn't really know how to relate or connect to God, and I was just kind of like felt lost for a long time. I don't know if that
Mm-hmm.
resonates or not.
Yes, no, completely, completely. Well, since I had my awakening, I did not lose the connection, but I'm interested to hear as well, how did you get it back, or if you ever?
Yeah.
But definitely I question myself every day, and like I'm even like my ego comes back, and then I go back to God, and I'm still debating with what is coming, like crystal clear message or intuition, or I don't know, just a feeling in my body,
Yeah.
and what is really coming from pain and from my wounds. And yeah, so
Mm.
totally, totally can connect with that. But can you explain a bit how it was, this reconnection? Because I think it's so important for people to I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. So I read a near death experience book a couple years ago. Uh,
Mhm.
Connected with a lot of the same experiences I had, and same a lot of the realizations I had during my awakening. And I was like, okay, other people have had similar experiences, have had similar realizations. So maybe my experience wasn't just me. Other people have had these experiences. Maybe there's something to it, to the spiritual aspect, not just the bipolar or whatever.
Mhm.
And so then I gave myself permission to go outside of the Christian box that I was raised in and kind of explore. And I was thankful to be connected with this other guy who was connected with my church, who had also been through his own awakening experience, and he gave me a lot of books to read. And then on the internet, I found a lot of people, some Christians, some deconstruction Christians, some spiritual people, and then I found other people who had awakenings, and it was so fun. It was like a mystery. It's like connected the dots. Like, oh, well, that's what that was, or that's what that was. Oh, this person's had this, and this tradition addresses it here. This tradition, and they call it this, and they call it this, and it's like, oh, it's all connected. Fun. And so, um, for when I started my business, I was kind of struggling with how I'm going to present myself. Am I going to be a spiritual life coach? Am I going to just say life coach? What's the language I'm going to use? Am I going to say God? Am I going to say spirit? Am I going to say universe? Um, like people have so many different ideas. Um, Recently, I was talking with my friend, and we were talking about like, the God and hearing from Him, and she's like, "Oh, that's hearing from your higher self,
Mhm.
and God, everything that is." And she doesn't, as far as I understand it, she doesn't think of God so much as like this being you have a relationship with that you can talk to back and forth. It's your higher self. And then I thought about it in a little different way. And I was like, I wonder what Threads thinks. And then I asked Threads, and then I got a billion different answers. There was no like consistency. People were all over the place in what they thought about what they. And I was like, wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And like, okay, maybe what's important isn't, it's not so much what we conceptually think of it as. It's just more about the energy of, love and helpfulness, and whatever way you conceptualize that, where that comes from, what that is, it's all the same thing, and it's all helpful. So it's not so important that we have the same idea conceptual. But also I was like, okay, what prompted me to have my awakening in the first place? And that was like, I want a deeper relationship with God. And I'm like, I grew up Christian. I don't agree with everything
Mhm.
in Christianity today, but that's my tradition. That's where I came from, and I'm going to embrace that. And so some people have resistance or trauma with God, but you know we we have to ground ourselves somewhere. Like, I can't just say all the time a billion different words for God, and all that. I'm gonna embrace my tradition and my language that I grew up with, but I'm gonna try to do it in a more healthy, better way, and reclaim that word in a healthy way. And so, um,
Mhm.
yeah. Before I go on, I just did
No,
you have?
please. No, please, I'm loving it. I'm having a whole lesson because I know you are ahead in the journey than me, and like I'm just absorbing, absorbing, absorbing. I think also people that are watching, like, please keep on going. No, I love everything. Like, also I can relate as well with the higher self part and God, because I feel like the more layers we shed from our, yeah, construction and deconstruction that society imposed to us, the more we connect clearly to our higher selves. And I'm going through this right now, like trying to, okay, what am I and what am I
Yeah,
not? And also what I am, it's not
yeah,
permanent. It's constantly changing every minute. And then the closer and closer I get to God. And that's absolutely beautiful. I think
yeah.
it's a beautiful process. Yeah.
So I don't know if you know, but my podcast name is Becoming Who We Are.
No, I didn't know. Oh my God.
It's
Got the
like a,
goosebumps. That's nice.
it's so fun. I love it because it's like, well, my belief is who we truly are is love, is divine, is spirit, is God at the core of ourselves. But we have all these, like you said, all these conditions of what other people, what society, of our trauma, of our ego, sin, whatever you want to call it, that is still a layer of ourselves that keeps pulling us back. And so we're in the process of becoming who we truly are. Um,
Exactly. Wow, that's beautiful. And you know what? Now that you said it, a few years back, I already wanted to start a YouTube channel, but I was clearly not ready. Like, I'm not ready now. 4 years ago, imagine the chaos. It wasn't a good idea. I even started trying to record videos, and they were like, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna post them. But the name of the YouTube channel will be Becoming Love.
oh,
So,
yes.
I'm like, I still have the channel. Maybe that will be my YouTube or
That.
I don't know, Spotify channel. I have to think about it, but beautiful that you said it. It's really nice.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I love that. That's great. I'd love to see you do that. Yeah, so about God, I there's so Christianity has this idea of the Trinity, and I think it's a good idea. Now, uh, I won't say all, but a lot of Christians have a set view of what that means.
Hmm.
But other Christians are more open to like, you know what? It's a mystery. It's profound. We're still trying to figure it out. Um, but so the idea of Trinity in
Hmm.
Christianity is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So God the Father is kind of what Christians think of as like God above us. There's another guy who I like how he says it. He says, "There's God above us, God beside us, and God within us." That's his way of talking about it. So Trinity, the Christian way, is God the Father above us. He created everything. God the Son, which they say is Jesus, it came down on earth. Um, and then the Holy Spirit, which uh, that that came to people who get baptized after Jesus left, and
Hmm.
speaks to us, and it's kind of like what spiritual people might say is like the higher self.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, another way of talking about it is God above us, and then there's God, and that's God the Father. Then God beside us, that's like Jesus or other people, and then God within us, so which is kind of like that oneness. And so Christians often really focus on God the Father, and then uh, God beside us, and Jesus specifically. Um, and depending on the Christian tradition, some like my Christian tradition didn't really focus on the Holy Spirit. That was just confusing to us.
Hmm.
I think spiritual people are very good about God within us, the oneness aspect.
Yeah.
But I've been recently on a journey of realizing like all three aspects are important, and uh, I think it just depends on where you are. Like I think for me anyways, in my journey,
Hmm.
to get God within me in that oneness, I needed to first uh, realize, improve, understand, and connect with God above me, God the Father. But I'll say, you know, God the Father, I don't even like that phrasing because God is not male or female. He created everything. So that means that male and female aspects, the masculine and feminine, are both within him. And so sometimes I like to think about like God the Mother. What does that sound like? What does that feel like? What is that like? Um, and then thinking about God the Father. What is that like? And then also like, you know what? He is also beyond concept. He's beyond understanding. And so also get out of my head of thinking and get into that just feeling and relationship with him. And so um but for a while I was just in this like oneness, God's within me. But I'm like, you know what, it is important and it is helpful to talk to God and to try to listen for God, and or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, God beside us. It's not just Jesus to me. It's like, how can I see? And in Christianity even has this concept, they call it imago Dei. It's seeing the spirit of God within everybody. We can see, um, you know, them trying to be good and trying to help others, and trying to see their shared humanity we have within everybody. And so I think that all three of those concepts are important to try to understand, I
Definitely.
have a relationship with and relate to.
Yes, 100%. I also, on my healing journey, I started realizing, okay, how the order, and it's still changing, of healing goes within me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always consider the Divine Trinity. God, of course, it will come first, because if my faith is not there, then who am I? I have nothing to grasp. So that's my holy grail. And then in my healing journey, I would see, okay, I'm putting myself first in this point in my life. But where is the others? Like how, because if I also put too many other people in front of me, then my needs won't be met, and it's hard to place boundaries. I'm going to give too much empathy. So just bringing that back to the relationships, that's that's how we define our structures as human beings, right? And it's so important to understand like what is your purpose and what's the order right now for you, and how is it going to be in the future? Does that change? How is it serving like as a purpose? And how do you see that? I would see, if I had to look at how we come out to the world, is it God, ourselves, and people, or God, people, ourselves, or we consider the Trinity together, right? Us and other people
Yeah,
at the same, right?
right. One, so Christianity can sometimes, you know, it is about like they focus on Jesus, and Jesus, you know, they say died on the cross for our sins. And so it's all like they really emphasize service, self-sacrifice, which I think is beautiful, but it can take on this unhealthy dynamic of um, self-flagellation, self like just basically like laying down and letting people walk all over you, and just like,
Exactly.
I'm gonna give, and then you wear yourself out. It's unhealthy. You burn out. You can develop trauma. All these different issues. And so
Mm-hmm.
um, boundaries are also important. So I actually love thinking about the second commandment, which is love your neighbor as yourself. So
Yes.
and then Christians are like, oh, love your neighbor, great, and then they go into that sacrifice. But what's important is as yourself. If you don't love yourself well, how can you love your neighbor well? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, and I've seen this, and I've done this, like we're talking about with like the hero mentality.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to love that person, but because of my own unhealth, because I haven't loved myself well, my
That's
idea isn't good. And so when I try to love, I'm also hurting the other person.
mm-hmm.
So if I focus on myself and what is love, what is self love, how can I love myself well? And the more I do that, the more then I'm able to love others well and do that in a healthy way. And so I need to be able to love myself well to love my neighbor well.
Yes, exactly. It starts within us, right? Safety in us, love in us, even all the emotions in us, so then we can overflow to everywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Still learning, still learning.
Oh,
Blasting messages. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Thank you for your presence. Oh my God, it's also a very grounding presence. So like I can hear you speaking for hours. It's just like so nice.
Like, I really appreciate, like, you're so positive, and like your smile and your joy, and um yeah, I love it. It's great. It's like a light.
It's very genuine, and I like, even in my life sometimes I try to be genuine and it still hurt people because of my own wounds, and sometimes I'm not super aware of other people's wounds, but just trying to have these good intentions and being genuine, like I really appreciate you and appreciate your time,
Yeah.
and this conversation is beautiful. So I'm genuinely super happy.
Yeah. True.
Uh,
Um and I want to say about attachment disorders and God, just realizing like, oh, I have this anxious attachment. So I'm like, I want to get closer to God. I want, you know, it to be this close relationship. I want to hear him. I want to feel him, all this stuff. Um, you know, it, it's, again, it can be good and it can be bad. I think it's great to have that desire. I think that that's the deepest desire we have in our heart, is
mhm.
that relationship with God, that oneness, whatever you want to call it. It's
Yeah.
beyond conception.
Mhm.
When we
Yes.
approach it from a place of, I don't have this, or lack, or anxiousness, so I need to get this,
Hmm.
then the I've been reading the Course in Miracles. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like,
No.
we God is always there. And also, God is the energy, the life force that makes me breathe, which makes
Exactly.
all life in the universe live. So like, I can never be separated from
No,
God.
we are God.
So
Like, in that
like,
sense, we
where's
are,
God?
right? We
He's
don't need
there.
anyone. That's what I'm realizing. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, if like I have a logical like formula in my head. If God is love, if Jesus was love and became then therefore God, if I turn into love, therefore I have a piece of God inside of me. It's a mathematical, because I'm very logical.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that makes sense. It makes so much sense. And understanding that if I have my God and if my partner finds it's God as well, that's a beautiful union. And
mhm.
that's what's the healing that comes out from, like, getting out from the anxious attachment to a more secure attachment, and help both partners healing together into this journey that's, yeah,
Yeah, and
amazing to find God.
yeah, that's beautiful. And I think for the avoidant, it's more like, uh, I think they're afraid of power dynamics, but can control, and kind of like what, I was thinking, this perfectionism, like, God expects you to be this, or I'll have to be under God. And they think back to like their parents maybe, and like a harsh disciplinarian. And it's like, remember, God is unconditional love, which means that there's no condition. He doesn't need you to be anything for him to love you. There's nothing you can do for him not to love you, because he is love. That's who he is, and he understands us better than we understand ourselves. And
Mhm.
so he realizes why we do things, and of course, he wants what's best for us. He wants us to love ourselves. He wants us to love
Mhm.
others. I'm
Mhm.
He doesn't like all the atrocities and all the evil in the world, but that doesn't mean he stops loving even what we would say is the most evil person.
Yes.
Like, he loved Hitler.
Of course.
um and so really, it's ourselves that stop us from feeling that love, from being in that relationship with God, from seeing him, her, all around us, in us, beside us, above us. It's always there. So
Yeah.
the invitation is always there to open up, to realize. And that doesn't mean that I always will feel super loving or will feel the energy. I think that's another thing in my journey, is like, it's not always going to feel great or whatever. It's not going to meet my expectations, but he's always there. And so realizing that, and that he always loves me, that's transformative.
Yes, 100%. I I always think of it as how can I stay closer to God, and yeah, ground myself in this, and understanding that And I'm still going through this on the awakening part, understanding that I'm not here to again be the hero of people or fight the bad, right? And it's something that I'm learning on my ego side and my doing this shadow work. And it's like we see God, and then suddenly I want to everyone to see God because God is amazing. And then, guys, you must see what I'm seeing. And I went through that period.
Uh,
Like, guys, come on. But it's not like that. And I'm just understanding, okay, so then let's let that sink in. Let's ground ourselves and receive God and just have that nurturing day by day and keep on grounding.
yeah, yeah. I think I like that Carl Jung quote or something that's like, I wanted to change the world, so I focused on myself.
Starts with me, exactly. Oh, it took me so long to realize that. I'm like, it starts with me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And two, I really like the Bible talks about like we're co-creators with God. So there's this. I really like the AA, like the Alcoholics Anonymous Serenity Prayer. I can't remember it, but basically it's like, how can I surrender to circumstances that are outside of my control, and how can I take action and responsibility for things within my control? And so, how can I surrender to whatever God has for me in life, whether I view it as negative or positive? How can I see
Hmm.
um, not what life's doing to me, but see it as what is life doing for me? What is God
Yeah.
wanting to teach me in this moment? And then what actions can I take that are within my control to help co-create a better world? You could say that bring the kingdom of heaven on earth as a Christian.
Yes, heaven on earth. I love that
Yeah.
phrase. Yes, 100%. And I was going to say something. Yeah, the way I was trying to see that and also look into my wound, right? Like as a rejection or abandonment wound, I would be very suspicious of people. So because I don't want to get hurt and I get into my shell and I try to make myself secure all the time,
Mhm.
I would be very suspicious. I would be like, okay, are these doing that for me or not? I like, they must be doing that for me. Like, why wouldn't they? Because I had this wound that
Uh,
I didn't have self-love, which I'm trying to heal every day. But changing from suspicious to curious
yeah.
has helped me so. Oh my, that even makes me happy to say. It's like, I take this lift from your back. Like, instead of assuming something that someone is bad or because of your
Mhm.
issues, just come and ask, like, was that actually for me? Can you validate my reality?
Mhm.
Did I do something wrong? Please forgive me. Like, it's something that I've been practicing my daily life. I'm being asking for forgiveness every single time because my intentions are always good. But even though they're good, sometimes they're not good enough for someone,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I need to respect it. And if I hurt you, I need people to tell me so then I can tell them back, I'm sorry, it was never my intention. I was actually doing something else in my head and I hurt you. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I'm truly here for you, and that opens so many doors to the heart, right? It's
Mhm.
like that's my invitation to getting close to people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all amazing. I think when you realize it's a hard responsibility, but it's like people can only hurt me as much as I let them, as I believe in what they're saying and what they're doing. Um, so if people are saying hateful things about me or whatever, if I don't believe that, then it's not gonna hurt me. Like, oh, that's
Yeah.
not true. But
Yeah.
if I believe it, if I get sucked into that, then they hurt me. But
Mhm.
now someone might say things, and you know what? They might be truthful. So how can I take what's truthful? How can I take that a not way of shame? Like, oh, you know what? I'm bad.
Mhm.
I screw up. I hurt other people. I can't do anything right. Take it of how can I be convicted? Like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take responsibility. That's true, but I'm not gonna get stuck in shame, stuck in the past,
Mhm.
stay stuck in this. But how can I move forward and be like, you know what? I'm sorry. Ask for forgiveness, and then how can I do better in the future? How can I move forward?
Mhm. 100%. And it's beautiful when you find people that are also open to be direct on the communication, because sometimes, which I struggle now, it's like when I apologize and I hurt someone and the person is not 100% clear if they're hurt or
Yeah.
not. It feels like, okay, so I will believe you, but then sometimes the person is still hurt. So I'm still also learning to, okay, sometimes it's good to have some space and let time heals things, and it heals for both, right?
Well,
Yeah.
just
Oh, so nice.
boundaries and be like, you know what? I'm not a perfect person, and sometimes I get my feelings hurt, even though it may be my own believing them when I shouldn't. But I'm
Mhm.
still perfect, so I need boundaries. And but then also, if I need boundaries, then I should be able to and grow in respecting other people and them having boundaries and them not being perfect and them not
Yeah.
understanding myself or what I intended or whatever the case may be.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm speechless. It's very healing. It's going in my soul. Like, that's nice. It shows like the way, and I think for everyone, because as humans, we need to understand we are imperfect. And talking about this that we're doing here now, is showing people and showing vulnerability to show up with this open heart and say, okay, I am imperfect, just as everyone else. Why can't we all just hold our hands and just, try together? Because it's not about separating, it's about uniting. It's about my problem can help your problem, and talking about my problem can help you healing. And if you don't tell me, I don't know. And it's kind of building this trust within myself that I will be there for everyone. And if they're not ready, I'll also give the space. But anytime, I am always open and try to stay open,
Mm-hmm.
nurturing my nervous system to also be able to, because sometimes we get triggers,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to hold our best selves for others, it's also such an amazing work, which I really believe in.
100%. That's beautiful. I agree.
Nice. uh I loved our talk. I think we covered most topics. Is there anything else you would like to cover? I think this was a very nice live. I'm so grateful. Maybe I always do that in the other lives as well. Like if we take 2 minutes to just sing, sit with ourselves and just say thank you to the expectation and
Hmm.
be
Yeah,
with
nice
them.
meditation prayer. I like it.
Yes, yes. Just to finish and close our little chat. Thank you everyone that watched. It was very nice to have your presence and you, Kendall. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was beautiful.
Yes. Thank you. It was a pleasure. I will save this live and I will share with you.
Awesome.
Okay? Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone. Have a lovely day. Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.